All right, everybody, Mike Lynds here. So what I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna basically show you guys, essentially what I'm doing is an arm superset, but I'm showing basically the differences in intensities, like different ways to do your sets, different ways to increase the volume, increase the intensity, stuff like rest pause, drop sets, basically supersets within the same muscle group. Like there's so many different protocols that you can use. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a tricep movement, show you a couple different variations in intensity levels. And then I'm gonna show you a bicep movement as per basically the arm day superset. And then show you different kind of ways over there as well. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm just doing a tricep push down. So basically gonna get it in here nice and proper. So first one I'm going to show you is time under tension. So time under tension is basically really slow controlled movement patterns. So if you're essentially doing your whole set of this basically time under tension. So what I mean by that is basically you're going to do like 5 seconds on the positive. You're going to pause at the flex for 2 seconds and then 5 seconds on the negative, all the way up into full stretch, like you actually feel that stretch for 2 seconds, and then back down again, 5 seconds for the entire set. So that in itself, pause for 2 seconds, and then back up for 5, pause for 2, back down. So that in itself is a protocol. So it's basically training muscle under time tension, or it's time under tension. There's so many different ways to basically talk about it. But basically what it's doing is you're changing the the time that you're doing on each part of the rep. The positive, the negative, the flexion, and the stretch. You can manipulate those. You can make one a little bit longer, one a little bit shorter. But essentially what you're doing is you're doing a really slow movement pattern. That in itself increases your intensity tenfold because you have to lighten the weight. You can't do that if you're doing the full stack. It's impossible. But if you keep that time and keep that time under tension timing, you're gonna start failing. Like 6-7 reps into your 12 reps, you're gonna start failing, and you gotta really push yourself to keep that time. And you do it every set, all the way through. So that is the first protocol that you can kind of use. Second protocol that you can use is something called a drop set. And it's something that I've kind of gone over before, but essentially what you're gonna do is get into the same thing. So you're gonna do normal rep timing, and you're gonna go all the way until you're like, you're trying to get that, like you can't even get it from here. Stop, drop the weight a little bit, and continue. And you go until you can't go anymore, and you back down to this again, stop, drop the weight again, and continue. And that one you would basically go to absolute complete failure. So that is called a drop set. So that is another way of increasing. Basically it's teaching you and teaching your body how to go beyond that lactic acid threshold. Because a lot of people get to that point where it burns and they want to stop. So instead of letting yourself mentally give up and teaching yourself to give up too early, drop the weight, keep going. And then you're gonna go right to that point where you're gonna start failing again. The lactic acid burn is just basically the point where you feel like your arms are gonna explode. Drop the weight, keep going. So the more times you do that, you're teaching your brain that it's okay to push past the pain. So it's okay to push, and what I mean by pain is lactic acid pain, not pain. If it's actual pain, like in the joint, or you feel like something is tearing or really like sharp, acute pain, that's completely different than lactic acid pain. Lactic acid pain is just the burn. And if you're having that, then essentially you can keep going. You can push yourself beyond. But a lot of people give up, which is a big problem in bodybuilding. They don't have that second gear to just tap into and go past that point of, and that's where muscle growth is. Muscle growth is beyond those reps that you don't want to do. That's where the muscle growth is. That's where you really want to grow. That's where your body is going to grow, because you're pushing it beyond to where the body can go. And that's where you build your strength. That's where you build your muscle mass, because basically you're putting your body in a predicament that it's under stress. It doesn't want to do it. So you push it beyond that, that's when it grows. So there's two ways that you can basically go over your intensity. And now we're going to move on to the bicep movement. All right, everybody. So we finished up the triceps. We went over time under tension and drop sets. So now we're going to move into the bicep exercise. I'm going to go over rest pause, and I'm going to go over, a lot of people call it different things, like cluster sets or something like that. Basically, essentially, you're doing 2 exercises of the same body part, back to back with 0 break. So you can call it a superset, you can call it cluster set, whatever you want to call it. Basically, you're not giving yourself that time to break. So first one I'm going to do is rest pause. So we're going to do a hammer strength movement. So leaning back, everything's nice and tall, breaking at the elbow, so you're bringing it up, squeeze, nice and slow on the way down. So essentially I'm going to go until 10 reps, 10 hard reps. I'm going to start failing around 8 or 9. Then I'm going to just basically hang out here in the stretch for a count of 15 seconds and just rest. And then I'm going to try to get 10 more. And then I'm going to hang out down here for another 15 seconds in this full stretch. Still hanging onto the weight. And then I'm going to go until failure. So I might get 5, I might get 8, I might get another 15, I don't know. And here you go again. All right, so with that one, essentially what you're doing is you are giving yourself a break in between, but you're only giving yourself a static break. So what I mean by static break is you're not fully letting go of the weight. You're holding onto the weight and you're stretching that muscle. And then you're going to keep going. So every time you hold and stretch the muscle, you're letting the body pump in more blood. So you're stretching out basically some of the lactic acid blood. And as soon as you start going again, the body's going to start pumping more. Then you give yourself that stretch again, and then you start pumping more in. So that in itself is, it's a massive pump that you're going to get, like almost to the point of painful. And it's very intense, but it is very, for me, it's satisfying, because it tells you that you're doing your proper form, you're hitting everything on where you should be doing, and the only muscle that should be having that amount of pain is the one you're working. Once you get into that 3rd round, yes, you are going to start incorporating forearms. You are going to start incorporating other muscles to help, because your biceps are maxed out. It is what it is. But to know that you've gotten to the point where your biceps are now maxed out and they don't want to work anymore, and you're having to utilize other muscles to help, that tells you that you're doing something right. So again, that is rest pause, and now we're going to move on to clusters. Coming back into hammers. Basically go right up to the point where almost to failure. And then I can basically turn around and get into a point, into a single. And obviously you would switch up to the other arm. But that is basically you're not giving yourself any breaks to basically essentially rest. So you're gonna keep going. And each set, change the arm that you start with. So basically if I'm Set 1, I move over to the right arm first, and set 2, I'd move over to the left arm first. So you're not giving the same arm more of a break. Or if you're doing, say another cluster one would be if you're doing a barbell curl with the cable and you're doing a central barbell, you can pull it in and start doing drags. That's another easy quick fix with 0 break, and you're not getting any breaks. These are the things that basically, again, you're intensifying your pump, you're intensifying your workout, you're increasing the volume is another big one. These are things or bodybuilding tricks that a lot of people just don't utilize, but you need to really be sure of form is basically the top proponent. And when you start doing things like these sort of like cluster sets or supersets, because if you start to move on to the second exercise and you already failed after the first one, your form will be usually bad. So the big thing you got to realize is pick an exercise that you can do and you know that you're going to do form. So when I moved over to this, I'm already in a full stretch and everything's behind me, and all I'm doing is breaking at the elbow. So there's not really much room for me to break the form. Like I have to physically pull my arm forward and my front delt to get it moving. Then I know that I've already failed. And then I'd switch to the other end. So pick an exercise that it's really, really easy for you to figure out that you're failing. If it's something that you can't do, just drop the weight. Like it's a easy thing. Just drop the weight and keep going with that singular arm or the double arm. If you're doing the cable and then into the drag, you can drop the weight when you start the drag. It's not that big of a deal if you drop the weight. You're just not giving yourself that break to stop. But the big thing you're getting out of these protocols is intensity, volume, and the ability to increase blood work or blood volume in the muscle, increase the burn in the muscle, and increase the muscle essentially wanting to grow. You're putting in such a stressful environment that it has to basically work back. It has to basically grow and strengthen for you to continue to do this type of exercising. So I know I'm kind of rambling on, but that is a big thing that I utilize in my programming with my athletes, is different protocols, different methods, and it changes quite frequently in my programming. So anyways, guys, that is it for today. Hope you guys learned a couple of things about the different protocols that you can use to intensify your workouts. Drop a comment, drop a like. Let me know what you guys want to see, man, because the big thing is I'm here to help you guys, and I'm not here to basically showcase anything else but helping you guys out. So anyways, that's it for me today. Peace out.